Welcome to This Week in Anderson High School Athletics here on ESP Media, powered by Sidearm Sports. I'm Jason Griefer, and today we are joined by Anderson Athletic Director Chris Newton. Newt, we're kind of missing somebody here today. Zach, I understand, is just now getting back into school and apparently driving a few people nuts.
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah, he came in screaming, hooting and hollering. They had to pipe him down. We're doing ACT testing today, and they had to lock him up and throw him in a room so he wouldn't bother anybody. So I don't know. I don't know if he or Patty are going to come out alive. It'll be interesting.
We'll look for a report on the Twitter feed in the coming days here.
Yeah.
Let's start talking about your athletic programs because we've got a lot to cover here today as the Wonder Sports season is kind of winding down. First of all, let's start with gymnastics and the run they've been on the last few weeks, and I'm going to kind of recap the last few weeks, kind of leading up to where we are now. They win the Spartan Safari Invitational a couple of weeks back with the team's highest score in more than a decade. You go to the city meet and finish second. Abby Pitts finishes second in the all-around. Maddie Belcourt finishes fourth. And now you're going to state with Abby Pitts as the all-around district champion. Wow.
Can you say hammer? Man almighty. She was unbelievable. And all these girls. And I got to tell you, Jason, I sit there and watch. I mean, that junk there, that gymnast stuff is pressure. I mean, it is high pressure. I sit there and I was talking about somebody, I went up and I can't tell you how many times I looked like a fool swinging a bat, but that was just one strike. I got to hop in there and hope I got hit with the ball so I could get on base. These girls, you take one bad step, your day's done. It's over with. And just the way I see them and deal with it. And we got great leadership in Maddie Bailey and Abby Pitts. But these girls, Chloe Harvest, Ava Klesnikoff, Natalie Rising, Maddie Belcourt, Maddie Bailey, and Abby Pitts, I got to tell you, we are so proud of them. And like I said, they're going to state. They performed incredible. And I will tell you this, Beam was our first event, Jace. And, I mean, that's absolutely ridiculous, walking on a 4-inch piece of wood doing that. Maddie Belcourt's doing flips on the gosh darn thing. And we struggled a little bit. So if we did not absolutely light it up on our last event, and those girls, I mean, they're smart. They get it. So we hit the bars, and that last event, the girls just lit it up. Abby Pitts wins it. And if she doesn't win it there, we probably aren't going.
She is one that I think Zach talked about in the early this winter season. It took some doing to convince her to come out for the gymnastics team. And obviously, this is going to be her only year doing it, being a senior. But how would you evaluate her progress in her one and only season with the gymnastics program?
Well, it's just been absolutely incredible. The Pitts family is an incredible family here at Anderson High School, and her brother is a sophomore football, basketball, baseball kid. And it's just, I mean, he is the epitome of hard work. And so it's awesome. But, the thing about Abby, Abby did her club and she was awesome at it. But Abby was very, she was injured. She was big time injured here this summer. She couldn't do a lot of stuff. She had some surgery and the fall really didn't do a lot of stuff. So, it was really up in the air if she was going to do gymnastics at all, club or high school. And, she really started to feel better health-wise. And she's an incredibly fit young lady and hard worker. And I think she got herself back into a position where she wanted to give it a go. And, we're just very thankful. As I told her, Saturday, thank you. Thank you for making this possible, because without her, quite honestly, it's not possible.
And still more work to be done.
Oh, you better believe it, baby.
So state meet not around the corner there. So we'll be keeping an eye on that. Absolutely. We'll be keeping an eye on that. How about your dance team? Defending state champions. They're going back.
Yeah, and and it's interesting because they did their dance, their state routine. They did it in our gym virtually, so they did that Saturday. So that's kind of it's a strange one because I tell you, being up there last year and watching that, and watching them win one state championship and then win another one, uh, it was an absolutely awesome thing to see with these girls. And so, we'll have to figure out, our expectations is we're going to defend our state championship. So we'll have to figure out another way to celebrate those. But and then they finish up the year. They got Saturday. They're going to be at Seton. Seton puts on an absolutely incredible um, competition, and so they'll be out there, and so we'll be hooting and hollering at there this weekend.
Let's talk about your academic team, and they're continue to ride mid pack in the ECC at 9-7 right now, and this has obviously been a different ECC season. With the newcomers coming in, Lebanon's in there, of course. Little Miami's just come in and just taken the league over as far as AQT goes, but they've been a long-standing, excellent program. First, I want to first of all go back to a couple of weeks ago when we were preparing to do the podcast and Mother Nature got in the way. Where we tracked the progress of AQT, and all of a sudden, both myself and Rob Ebel get an email from one Chris Newton saying that he was attending an AQT match. I think it was against Loveland, and all of a sudden we read in this email in big bold capital letters, because you can't miss it, that you got like 5 or 6 questions in a row.
Oh, I was on fire, Jason. I was on fire. It was the hardest thing for me not to like scream out these answers. Never been in that zone before. It was like Larry Bird. I saw something the other day about Larry Bird, making his 3-pointer in that 3-point contest, shot it and just walked off and put the one, and he knew it was in. I mean, I've never been like that before in my life. And now I will tell you this, Jace, I came down to earth yesterday, really, really, really fast. So, I was pretty much almost shut out yesterday. I did answer the football question correctly, so that was interesting. I did struggle with they do this thing called alphabet, and I didn't really understand that each correct answer started with the same letter. I didn't figure that one out until near the end of it. So I just thought it was a coincidence that a lot of them were starting with W's. So yesterday seriously brought me back to earth, and I'm going to let our kids continue to answer those questions.
Is there a more humbling sport than AQT?
Well, that's definitely humbling, but again, watching those girls walk on a 4-inch, or watching them flip and cartwheel and spin and all that one's an amazing thing as well. Because I don't know how they do that. I don't know how they have the guts to do it, but AQT really puts you in your place. There's no doubt. Those girls, they're awesome. They do a great job.
Well, the regular season's winding down for AQT, and as you said, you got Lebanon coming up, and as you said, they've kind of struggled in their first year in the ECC. As we said, you're riding mid pack. Little Miami's undefeated, 16-0, and they're the odds-on favorite to win the ECC tournament. But still got to get through that, and still got to actually play that out. That'll come next week. Is the focus this week going into the ECC just trying to just better ourselves and not necessarily worry about the win-loss situation with Lebanon, just try and boost our scores up so that when we hit the ECC tournament, if we happen to see a Little Miami or see their scores, that we can feel like we can compete?
Yeah, and there's no doubt. Like we took, we faced Winton Woods last night, and we took 2 there, so that was big. But again, it's all about just getting better. It's pretty much just like every other sport. It's you worry about yourself, you get better. Watching the kids. I mean, they truly enjoy what they're doing, and they truly enjoy being around each other. And it's so fun. I mean, they set everything up, Jace. They compete, then they tear everything down. I mean, it's truly a cool thing to watch. And we've got two teachers that take the times to be, Jennifer Cook and Tanya Heron. They are moderators. So, they come in, take the time to come do that to help these kids out. And, first of all, I don't know how they do it because I don't know how they read the questions. It's absolutely ridiculous.
You mean you don't want to be a moderator next year?
Oh my gosh, I'd get kicked off maybe about after the third question because I couldn't do it. But I mean, it really is a total team effort, and that's what it'll be. That there's not just one kid that everybody looks to and relies on, and that's neat. There's not the go-to guy or girl. It is a total team effort, and that's what's really enjoyable to watch. And they get along so well. That's cool.
Yeah, that's just as important as anything, I think, at this point. In any athletic program, can you get along with your teammates and then go from there? So we'll keep a try on that and see how they do in the ECC championships when we next reconvene here. Let's talk about your wrestling team. And since they last talked, they were in the ECC championships as well. Lebanon came in and really dominated the ECCs, but we do have a league champion, and we can all kind of take a guess who it is based on who we talk about with the wrestling team. It's McLean Morency at 145. Took him less than 4 minutes to pin the guy that he beat for the league title. Sam Mizukawa finished second in his weight class there. So good showing from those two once again. And now we've got the postseason sectional looming to making the trip up to Middletown there. You also had several wrestlers place third, fourth there. So pretty good team showing all the way around there. It seems like everybody just kind of ran into a buzzsaw with Lebanon. But nevertheless, now the postseason's upon us here. What's the mindset of the team as they're getting set to head up to Middletown for the sectional?
Oh, very, very positive. I mean, I was down there in the wrestling room yesterday, and they got a good lift on yesterday. But I mean, it is very positive. And like you said, we had a number of kids do well. Besides the machine, McLean winning it, and Sam. Sam's match, I got to tell you, Sam wrestled incredibly well, and just fell on the short side there. But you got Sean Hartley, you got Xander James, Ash Sudith, Brock Vogel. I mean, Owen Newberry. These guys, they're all right there. And it just all depends. What I've learned in wrestling, it's so much about seeding as well. Yeah. Like when you run into the hammer, because there's always going to be a hammer in that weight class or two. And so it's like when you run into him, is it makes such a huge factor. And guys are going to sneak in every year. I mean, Brian Cole is a great example. Brian Cole last year as a freshman wrestling at 106. Nobody thought he would make it out. He ends up being a district qualifier. So we're going to have, my hopes this weekend, Saturday rolls around and we're up at Middletown, and my hopes are we have about 4, hopefully 5 guys that are going to be going to that next week.
And we'll be seeing how they do right there as well. Would it be disappointing if you got less than 3, or maybe if only you had McLean and Sam move on? Would that be disappointing?
Well, I mean, it's obviously disappointing whenever you watch your kids not be successful. I mean, that's a bummer. But again, I will say this: Sam Mizukawa, watching him wrestle, he didn't win, okay, but watching him wrestle, it was awesome because he wrestled an incredible match. And so I think it's, unfortunately, you run up sometimes against the guy that's throwing 100 miles per hour and you ain't going to hit the ball, so hopefully, like I said, we can stay away from those big hammers. But, if one of our kids has got to go against somebody that is that's been wrestling, since he was born, and our guy just started wrestling 3 or 4 years ago, if he goes out and gives it a great effort and a good fight, I'm not going to be disappointed at all. And so that's just what we have to see.
Let's jump into the pool, and you've got a young man who is going to state, Justin Dostal, going after two state titles in
Yes.
the 100 fly and the 500 free. So obviously big to get somebody get at least one to the state meet, and you've got that now with Justin. And yeah, this is impressive as well as he's just a sophomore, so you've got a lot of time left for him to develop, and this is going to be really good experience again for him to be at the state, but. I'm going to sarcastically ask you here: by how many seconds will he win the state title? And have you petitioned to the OHSAA to just cancel the next 2 years and just give the titles to him?
That would be nice. That would be nice, especially since I'm not allowed to go up there. So I'm not
What?
very happy, Jason. I got to tell you,
What?
I'm not happy at all. But
Who makes those rules?
I don't know. You know, and I
Bummer.
understand. I understand. You know, heck, I'm just glad that Justin's being able to swim. So, but it's very difficult in that you want to be there to want to support your kids, and hoot and holler for them and cheer for them. But you know, unfortunately, parents weren't even allowed. Justin's parents weren't even allowed to be there this past weekend. But he is allowed to have one parent at the state championship with him. So, you know, we're going to be in constant contact with our coaches to see how everything's going, and we're super excited for him. He's a great kid, very humble young man, and he just flat out gets after it. But we had a lot of good performances. I'm really happy with our kids. We had Kyle Grimes, Logan Maloney, Nick Gundrum, and Justin teamed up for 2 relays and swam the best times that they've done. Then the girls' side, you know, we've got Maggie O'Toole, a freshman. She tore it up and I think the 100 back and the 200 free. She swam the best time she's ever swam. And then Maggie teamed up with Maggie Crawley, Lily Cowan, Grace Miller, and Jess Swaney in their different relays, and they swam very well. So, you know, unfortunately, they didn't make it up there. But again, just kind of like what you talked about wrestling, is it disappointing? Well, it's disappointing because they're not moving on. But it's also very, very encouraging because they swam in the biggest meet of their lives. They swam the best times. And, you know, the one thing I'm learning about some of these sports, you know, as I do this, unfortunately, you're not allowed to play defense in some of the sports. You know, like if I was allowed, I'd get in there and I'd like mess up the water and stuff like that for other kids. So, but we're not allowed doing that. No. So you just have to go on what your time is. And swimming is like cross country. You could swim the best meet of your life, but still not make it. Well, you can't be disappointed with that. You just gotta, how am I going to get better? And that's what we're going to do. And I know Maggie O'Toole for sure. This girl, we're going to see her up in Canton. There's no doubt about that in the distant future.
You feel like she's got that bright of a future?
Oh, well, there's no doubt. There's no doubt. What a great family the O'Tooles are. Her brothers and her older sister have come through here. And the reason why I can tell you that for sure is because of the work ethic that the family has installed in all their children. So there is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. This young lady has the work ethic where she's going to get better and better and better every year.
Let's move on to the hardwood, and let's first talk about your girls basketball team. We saw their season come to an end in the opening round of the sectional against Loveland, who won the ECC. So no shame in that.
Yeah.
But before that, though, you know, we were talking since we were last talking there. They were on quite a bit of a slide, a long losing streak, and then they've had multiple pauses here and there. I don't know if there's a team maybe in the state that's had to go through more than what this team has had to go through, but you do get that late season win against McNick. And I'm wondering how rewarding that was for the girls to get that win, just that one win, given all they've had to go through and how young this team is.
Oh, Jason, I cannot even tell you how exciting that was. Zach and I were, you know, sitting right there. It was an awesome game by both teams. Just the runs that were made, you know. We jump out, then they come back. We jump back out, they come back and take the lead. Then we take it over. But Jordan Geist and Katie Doyle, Jen Haslett, Sydney Smith, that game were unbelievable for us. And it was so fun. And again, from Zach and mine standpoint, when that game was over, just to see the relief that was on the kids' faces, like, we can win. And it was awesome. We've got multiple freshmen playing in it. Olivia Havens, Morgan Berry, Izzy Lanham, Kayla Plank. We got 4 freshmen that are playing in that ball game. And just to see them work. And that's been the great thing about this team is, sure, we struggled in the win column. There's no doubt. But I never ever once saw this team take the court where they weren't at maximum effort. They played their butts off. And so I'm very proud of them for that. I'm very excited about the future. Jen Haslett, Reese Kincaid, they're going to be back as seniors, and they're going to lead this group of youngins. And we got a nice little group coming up for Nagel. So we're excited about where this group's going to go.
How much do all the starts and stops of this season factor into your evaluation of the program as you move forward?
It's funny because we were talking about that the other day and thinking about things. And I can't remember the exact number, but the amount of practices that a team should actually have during the year.
Yeah.
Our girls basketball team didn't even hit a quarter of those practices. And so when you have a young team, good gosh, I mean, you need to practice a ton.
Yeah.
And so what would happen is we'd get in a little bit of rhythm, and then all of a sudden, boom, we'd get hit, and the kids would get thrown in the queue again. And then, when you do get to practice 14 days later, you're not starting where you picked up, picking up where you left off. You're having to backtrack. And so you're always feeling like you're trying to catch up. And, our coaches, Coach Sheldon, Kincaid, and Robinson really did a good job keeping these girls' spirits up, and working to get better each and every day. There's no doubt. But you hit the nail on the head there, Jace. I mean, we didn't even have a quarter of the practices we were supposed to have.
But as you said, also the youngsters, freshmen, sophomores gained a lot of experience, and with the newcomers coming into the league, Lebanon in particular, they were thrown into the fire, and in a very, very tough league. So you got to cut your teeth somewhere. So hopefully this is just a building block towards the future. Let's move over and talk about the boys. Their season ends in the sectional as well. Very tight game against Mount Healthy, but you come up short. Mount Healthy wins the game 67-63. So we take stock of the season. You finish 12-9 on the season. Not that bad given all the challenges that everybody's had to go through. And we've talked about here on the podcast before about games getting shuffled, games getting postponed, games getting canceled. On top of, as we've also mentioned, the 3 new teams that come into the league. You look at the makeup of this roster, your varsity roster this year was essentially all juniors and seniors. You're going to lose 7 seniors off this team. A lot of talent's coming back, but given that, how important in your mind is the development of your freshman and JV programs, given that you did not have any freshmen or sophomores at the varsity level this year?
Wow, that's huge. And we had, our freshman coach, John Metterer, does a great job in preparing our freshmen. And, and some coaches at the young levels, they want to be varsity coaches. So they don't, it's like, oh, I'll do the freshmen. Okay. But I want to hang out with those guys. John's not that kind of guy at all. John, the most important thing in the world is the freshman basketball team to him. And so that is the great focus with them. They battled, being in the queue so much. I think of the 22 games they were supposed to play, I think they only got in 13, and they were 10-3. they played incredibly well. I mean, we got, JoJo Overbeek, Mikey Smith, Cassius Black, those, just to name three of the kids. Those kids are going to be big time varsity contributors. I don't know if it's next year, but in the future for Anderson. And then our JV team, Matt Huntington, did a super job. We brought him over. He's new as well. He's an Anderson grad, and he did a super job with our JV. And a Charlie Thorne, a Charlie Thone, Brandon Pitts, Ethan Hensley, Trevor Platt, and those guys. I mean, I can't remember what their record was, but I know they were well above 500. So the neat thing about, and it's kind of the contrasting to the girls basketball, the neat thing about having so many seniors on the varsity was our freshmen and sophomores were allowed to play JV and freshmen, and they were allowed to have successful seasons. Nick Engel, in years past would have been a varsity player here. And he wouldn't have had the success that he had on the JV team this year because, he would have been battling varsity kids. So it was awesome to see that those kids had success, not only individual success, but team success. And they're going to be ready to move on to the, to the varsity level next year. And I'm super excited. And, the wins, and again, we haven't won that, we haven't had that good of a record in a long time here at Anderson in the basketball program. So we're excited about the wins, but I'm wins aside, I'm more excited about the culture that we got going right now in our basketball program. And I see that the cupboard isn't bare, and that's for sure with all the guys' names I've been throwing at you. And there is going to be good things that lie ahead for this boys basketball program. I'm thrilled, and I'm going to be excited to watch it develop.
Well, and we've seen, kind of after last season, not a strong season, you make a change of head coach on the varsity level. So you've got a new coach there. You got a new coach at JV. You talked about the head coach of your freshman program being all in there and not just being a guy who's, okay, I'll take this, but I'm looking ahead to the varsity job, whether it's here or somewhere else.
Right.
Did you see that same commitment from the coaching staff at the JV level? And then how does that translate as they move up to the varsity?
Oh yeah, without a doubt. And Matt Huntington, I mean, he is the neat thing that I really liked about this year, and it's not something that you have to do, but it's something that I like. Our staff they're all basically Anderson people. Matt Huntington is a grad of we brought Marcus Thompson back, Joe Moon. Those guys were Anderson grads. Frank Brandy, obviously an Anderson grad. So what it is, it's a sense of pride that you have not only in that, your team, but it's a sense of pride in your school that's developed from within. And so, a guy like Matt Huntington, who's a young coach and cutting his teeth, he wants to, he played for Frank Brandy. So he wants to make sure that there's a lot of pride in the fact of, hey, I'm putting to use what you taught me, and I'm going to get these kids ready to play for you next year. And like I said, I couldn't be happier with our hoops team. Sure, would I have liked to seen us win a couple more games? Obviously, there's no doubt about that. But like I said, we're focused on how the culture of this program and where it's going to go in the future. And I don't think how we could be sitting in a better place, without a doubt.
As we're winding down the podcast here today, the winter sports season, as we talked about, is winding down. Basketball teams, their seasons have concluded. We've got several individuals still going forward. Gymnastics, AQT team, they're still moving forward. But we're winding down the winter sports season. So we start to take a look because the spring sports season is not that far off. Spring practices, not that far off. As you take stock of what is coming going into the spring, is there one thing in particular that you're most looking forward to when the spring season gets going?
Well, it's funny because we started yesterday, all right, with our spring seasons. So, so watching our lacrosse, there's snow all over the turf out there.
Mhm.
Watching our boys and our girls lacrosse teams go out there and compete in the snow um, was awesome. Watching our boys baseball team, watching our softball teams get after it in the gym, watching our track run through the hallways. To me, it was awesome because I did not hear one single kid complain, and nobody likes, they like playing in the snow, making snowmen in the snow, but they don't like playing lacrosse in the snow.
Yeah.
Not one complaint. There's not one complaint about baseball being in the gym, softball being in the gym. There's not a complaint about the track team being in the hallways. They are thankful that they have the opportunity because it got yanked out from under their feet last year. And so I am very anxious to watch this group and how hungry our spring athletes are to do to have the opportunity to be out there on the field. Because again, remember, they're the ones, it's getting ready to be opening day and they just get, they think they're going to be done for a couple days and maybe a week, and then they end up finding they don't have a season. So they're the ones that were first affected and affected the most. So without a doubt, I'm anxious to see the hungriness and the appreciation of these kids into going out and performing every single day to the best of their ability, without a doubt.
Well, and to your point, some of the changes they're having to make with track teams having to run in the hallways
Yeah.
of the school to try to get training in. You talk about lacrosse having to go out on the field and get going in the snow. Since he's not here, I can ask you this: why is Zach not out with a shovel clearing the field for the lacrosse team?
We've talked about that, and he'll be out there today. I think what he did when he came in, he had his bathing suit, a towel, and sunglasses and oil, because I think he was talking about how the sun was coming out today, and he was going to catch a few rays, and
Oh,
then might grab a shovel and help.
oh man, that's
Hey,
a that's mighty ambitious of him.
he's in prime form now. Again, I'm not gonna lie to you. When he came in here, they had to lock him up because he was so loud.
I won't ask if I won't ask the next time we reconvene if he was able to work on his tan or not. But but nevertheless, as we said, we're winding down the winter sports season. It's been very interesting to see how teams have developed, how they've gone through all the challenges they've had to meet and whatnot. Is there any one thing before we let you go here with the winter sports that's maybe stuck out to you in terms of how they've handled adversity, maybe compared to the fall sports?
Well, I would say this. In the fall, I mean, there was a little bit of adversity, but in the fall, we did not have one student athlete test positive. Okay. So we really, we were affected a little bit with the close contacts, and that's back when the rules were very, very tough on us and going back and in the classroom, stuff like that. Unfortunately, this winter, our kids have really, 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 truly had to battle overcoming mispractices, like I said, and new teammates on their side. And our bowling team had to battle it more than anybody.
Yeah.
And kind of the thing that's made me super proud of these kids is the persistence that they continue to show and their resilience and the bouncing back. I mean, Jace, we got some kids that were in the queue 3 or 4 times, never tested positive, just unfortunately we're in the wrong place at the wrong time. And you know what? Their parents could complain, they could complain, but they didn't. They know they've been awesome, and those are the rules that we have to follow. And they know we're not the ones making them. We just have to enforce them. And so they've been very good to deal with in those senses. But the kids come back chomping at the bit, ready to go. And the one thing I do want to leave you with, I want to leave you with this young man. Well, actually, we have a couple. So Ash Sudeth and Sean Hartley are two kids. We preach playing multiple sports here at Anderson High School. We preach it. And it makes me so proud when I went out in the hallway and they were doing abs and I was getting ready to start to do some abs, and I was like, no, I'm not doing this. But it makes me so proud to look and see how many multi-sport kids are out there. We got kids that I didn't know were going to be doing it, that were volleyball players and they're out there. They're basketball players and they're out there. Same thing with baseball and the same thing with softball, and lacrosse. Just seeing the multi-sport kids is awesome. Well, Ash Sudeth and Sean Hartley take it to a new level. Ash and Sean are both wrestlers and they're both divers. So they play two sports during the same season, which is incredibly difficult. And it's incredibly difficult to be really good at both of them because you got half the practice time. But Sean Hartley is a young man that came in third place in the ECC wrestling championships, did a great job, finished really strong. And my hopes are he's a district qualifier. Then you got in the diving, he came in third place in the ECC diving champions. Okay. Then he finishes in sectionals and qualifies for districts, and he finished 11th in the districts. So you got a kid here that's going to wrestling practice and then putting his swim trunks on and then going and diving in a pool. And a kid that just gives and gives and gives like that makes this job so rewarding to see. And that's what makes me proud about, our kids in this winter, how resilient they were and the persistence they showed to try to achieve excellence. And Sean Hartley defines it as well as anybody.
And really embodies that spirit that goes through Anderson Athletics, as you talked about before there. And it allows us the opportunity to talk about these student athletes because they deserve the accolades for all the hard work they put in here. And we'll be looking forward to much more of that in the future. Spring sports just around the corner. We're going to be talking about that a lot and then some when the time comes. Newt, certainly appreciate the time once again.
Nope, we appreciate the opportunity that you give us every week. Thanks, brother.
Thanks, Anderson. Yes, sir. That is Anderson Athletic Director Chris Newton joining us for this week in Anderson High School Athletics here on ESP Media, powered by Sidearm Sports.